On site in Amelia Island, there's Ira Schofel, the managing editor of Warchant.com. We are on Warchant TV talking ACC Spring Meetings Day 1. And Ira, every day is unique by definition. No 2 days are the same. But this seemed like kind of an oddball first day of ACC Spring Meetings. What happened out there at Amelia Island today?
Yeah, so the meetings were supposed to start about 3 o'clock. But before they started, a lot of the athletic directors and coaches from the different sports teams from around the ACC started filtering into the Ritz-Carlton Hotel here, which is not where I'm staying. I'm not staying. This is not the Ritz-Carlton, Tom, but we were over at the Ritz-Carlton this afternoon, and they were kind of filtering in and, just casual conversations when, the tweet from Brett McMurphy went out that actually named the 7 schools that, including Florida State and Clemson, that have been meeting and talking about, their future in the ACC and whether or not there needs to be a future in the ACC. And so that kind of came out while we were there. And then that was on the heels of earlier in the morning, Ross Dellinger from Sports Illustrated put out an article that mentioned 7 schools have been meeting, but didn't mention the schools by name. Brett McMurphy actually named the schools. And this is all also on the heels of the article that we ran at Warchant over the weekend with Michael Alford, FSU's athletic director, making some really strong comments about his concerns about the conference and the future of the conference. So that was all kind of being discussed in the lobby after McMurphy's tweet. And then they started the meetings. And when they go into the meetings, it's all behind closed doors. So the athletic directors are meeting, the football coaches, men's basketball coaches, women's basketball coaches, faculty representatives, and conference officials. They also bring in TV partners, ESPN, and other marketing partners. And so those meetings are all held in closed quarters, so we don't get to see those. We expected to be able to interview some of the coaches or the athletic directors at least afterwards. Several of them said they would talk when those meetings were done, but that did not happen, and I can explain kind of what happened there.
Well, I'd like to real quick. So paint the picture. The tweet from McMurphy goes out. We wiped it up on the screen. Everybody's seen it by now. Where you're correct. He's naming names. He's getting more specific than the Ross Dellinger report. Ira, that seems like a calculated time for a tweet to go out, a report to go out while they're meeting at the spring meetings. I'm not saying who would do something like that, but I'm sure that there's open speculation among those in the know and the athletic director at that level that are saying, what the hell? What is this? Where is this coming from? How did they take it as that information was circulating around the grounds out there at the Ritz-Carlton?
Yeah, and I do think that it's interesting. I mean, we had heard from talking to some of our sources in the last week or so that there was maybe a group of schools in the ACC that were of a like mind. Now, we not at the point where we could report what they're going to do or what their plan is, but there were several schools in the ACC that have been talking and trying to figure out what they're going to do, because none of them are happy about it. And the reality is this revenue gap is real, and it's not just $5 or $7 million or even $10 million. It's $30 million a year. So this has kind of been going on, but for there actually to be names associated with it, and like you said, that was dropped just as we're getting to the meetings, and they're just starting to gather. So I think there's probably a feeling from people in the conference that this was kind of planned or orchestrated. I don't know if that's true or not. I think as you watch Ross Dellinger, the way he handled it after Brett McMurphy's tweet, he almost like unwillingly, he confirmed on Twitter, yeah, those are the names. And he did not put in his story. And he went on his podcast that he does with Pat Forty and who else? There's three. Yeah. They do a podcast, and on that podcast, he said that he believes the 8th school would be Notre Dame. And then, okay, now what does that mean? Well, there's a belief that if you had 8 of the 15 schools, including Notre Dame, agreeing to do something, then maybe that would be enough. And I think there are some questions about, okay, is that enough? Would there still be legal action after that? These are things that, attorneys have been working on, and I don't know if there's a clear-cut answer yet or not. But clearly this is all another sign, along with the signs we've been seeing at the Florida State level, that, there's movement afoot to try to make something happen. Nobody's, at least half the schools in the conference are not content with just riding this out until 2036.
Well, and Ira, we love this kind of stuff, just to speculate on, because this is now names are being named, and there's more specifics, which means that more teams or sources at certain programs are willing to speak off the record, but kind of not off the record, which means that the ball seems to be moving in a direction, and that's all fun. But there's also the on the ground things that you saw being on site, and with that meeting with the athletic directors going late, and then them walking out. Paint the picture for us there, because I believe they were scheduled to be done at 6 Eastern, and it just blew right past that. And then there was the silence was deafening beyond that point. But what did it look and sound like there as things kind of butted up against each other in the schedule? And then obviously there's the context of the conversation going on around the country about the ACC as there's a meeting taking place in the ballrooms.
Yeah, so the meeting started at 3 o'clock. There were several meetings. And at about 5 o'clock, and before the meeting started, several athletic directors, Michael Alford from FSU, Dan Radakovich from Miami, I believe Graham Neff from Clemson, a few of the athletic directors told reporters that they would be willing to talk after the first day of meetings was over, which was supposed to be at 6 o'clock. At about 5 o'clock, the ADs left a kind of a joint meeting. They were in a meeting with other maybe coaches or representatives. It was a bigger meeting. They kind of went into their own ADs meeting at 5 o'clock, and that was supposed to be for an hour. And then at 6 o'clock, they were supposed to break from that meeting. The official business of the day would be done. Then they could go have cocktails or freshen up. And then the official formal dinner for the meetings was scheduled for 7 o'clock. Well, that meeting was supposed to go from 5 to 6, actually went past 7 o'clock. At about 7:02 p.m., I only know because David Teal, longtime ACC writer, was standing next to me, and he noted it was 7:02. Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC, kind of comes around the corner and nods to us, and then goes in that meeting room with the athletic directors, which was interesting because that doesn't usually happen. Like once the commissioner's gone, he's gone. But he came back, went into the meeting room with the athletic directors, and at that point, I just kind of came to the conclusion they're not going to talk tonight. Either they already know they're not going to talk tonight, or he's going in to tell them that they're not going to talk tonight. And then sure enough, about 5 minutes later, Jim Phillips comes out. The ADs come out after him. They're all walking pretty briskly. And, the ADs who did say that they were going to talk today basically just said, look, we've got dinner at 7 o'clock. We can't be late. And they scurried. But, I mean, the idea that that's all happening on the heels of all of these reports and everything that's going on. I mean, obviously, there's something going on. Again, whether it's just, the commissioner and maybe some of the ADs trying to kind of restore some order, or maybe just trying to hold off talking publicly until they can have more discussions tomorrow. But certainly, it's a fascinating time to be covering these meetings.
So, last thing I'll ask you about today before we set up tomorrow, Ira, but being on site, could you sense the stress from the athletic directors as they left the room and left the facility to go to dinner?
Yeah, you could tell that they did not want to talk, and I don't want to say it was like a look of frustration or anger or anything like that, but they definitely weren't cool and breezy, just kind of walking out. I mean, they're having real conversations, and a couple of the reporters noticed that Boo Corrigan, one of the other ADs in the conference, kind of sighed once they started walking past us, kind of like blew out a sigh of relief. I didn't see that, but two different reporters said they saw it at the same time. I think there's some stress there and probably some relief to not have to talk about it, because the challenge here is we don't know exactly where this is at, but we do know that nothing's done. Like there's nothing. It's not like they voted in that meeting to disband the conference or anything like that. So at least we don't believe. But if it's not done, then it's hard to say what they're going to say. So I think it's one of those situations where I think they weren't comfortable in talking until they had more conversations tomorrow. So we'll be here, through Wednesday. The meetings go through Wednesday. The other athletic directors, we expect the athletic directors to speak to us tomorrow. The schedule's a little bit looser where there's a couple of breaks built in, and then we also have time at the end of the day, but we just didn't get to talk to them today.
So there it is. There's the setup for tomorrow. Again, it's not regimented like ACC football kickoff in which you have slotted times for interviews. I think the commissioner might have one, but other than that, Ira, it's based upon just, if somebody has 10 extra minutes to spare, 15 extra minutes. But what a time to be out there covering it on the ground, Ira, because there's a conversation going on in the ACC footprint. Everybody's fascinated by it, but then there's also the on-the-ground stuff that's happening while the social media release and media outlets report the future of the ACC. Anything, broadly speaking, that you're looking for tomorrow beyond hearing from some athletic directors?
I'm still working our sources as well. And if I get any more information, I'll be happy to share that on warchant.com. I'll have a story that's up on the website as well. It'll be up tonight, just kind of recapping the day, some of the things we talked about here, and maybe a little bit more context to the situation, so people can check that out at warchant.com. But yeah, I think tomorrow, they've got more meetings. I don't know that there's going to be any decisions. Again, I don't. Even if you have even if they have 8 schools who come to an agreement about what they want to do, again, there's a lot of legal things that go into it. So I don't know that they're in a position where anything drastic is going to happen right away. But it's definitely percolating, and and we'll see what we can glean from the athletic director we've talked to. We will talk to Michael Alford, but we'll also talk to Dan Radakovich at Miami, the other athletic directors as well. To see what they have to say, because I think we might be able to piece some things together along with our other sources.
Legitimately could be the biggest spring meeting in ACC conference history. I mean, it's possible, Ira.
I'm trying to soak it up. It could be the last one, or or maybe the last one that Florida State's invited to. We'll see. I don't want to get everybody's hopes up, but because and one of the things I'll write about in that piece is that it's one thing to decide that these schools want to leave, or they want to fight the grant of rights, or they want to secede from the conference, whatever it is. It's another thing to actually know exactly where you're going to go, to have a home in place.
Yep.
And it's another thing that home ends up being a better situation than what you've got right now. And there's a lot of moving parts to this. There's other stories, as you said, there's other media reporting out there right now about the Pac-12's future, about the Big 12's future, and how those correlate to the Big Ten and the SEC and the ACC. So there's a lot of moving pieces right now. This is just one part of it, but we'll definitely have more coverage from here.
Interesting times. He's on the ground for us in Amelia Island. He is Ira Schoffel, the managing editor of Warchant.com. Head over to Warchant.com now if you've watched this video for more context on the situation, more breakdown of what's going on behind the scenes. We'll have more for you on day 2 of the ACC spring meetings here on Warchant TV and Warchant.com. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and head over to the site. For Ira, I'm Tom. We'll talk to you next time.